Good morning and welcome. My name is Phil Tarbox, National Sales Manager for Business Solutions for D-Link here in Australia. It's great to have you with us this morning for today's webinar on the newly introduced range of D-Link thermal cameras. Great to have your participation wherever you're dialing in from, whether it be in Australia or New Zealand or in other parts of the world. A very big and warm welcome to you. Joining me this morning is Ilya, our fantastic commercial product manager. Ilya will be talking to us this morning and giving us a live demo about the thermal camera as well. It's a very, very good morning to you, Ilya.
Good morning, everyone.
Great to have you on board, Ilya, and we look forward to hearing from you a little bit later on today as well. This is really a very big number in a series of webinars that we've been running over the last 3 months. You can go and catch past versions of our webinars online on the D-Link Australia or D-Link New Zealand YouTube channel. Just go and type D-Link Australia or New Zealand into YouTube. Go and click on playlist, and then you'll find a list of all of our webinars, whether they've been covering switching technology, 4G and 5G, Nucleus Connect, Nucleus Cloud, and there's also been some technical webinars that we have run on different switching features as well. And of course, stay tuned for more webinars that will be coming up over the next weeks and months as well. Here today, we're here to talk about thermal cameras, which are a pretty new product for the D-Link family. And obviously pretty relevant in today's landscape, today's environment. So a quick look at the agenda for today. We'll be looking at why thermal cameras, a bit of a look at the use cases of these products, the current solutions which D-Link has available, an overview of our range of product, some of the applications where thermal cameras can be used, and then Ilya will be taking us through our live demonstration, and then what next, as well as question and answers. So let's get started. So certainly there's a lot that's been going on in the last 3 or 4 months, not just in Australia, New Zealand, but really all around the world in terms of illness. The COVID-19 disease and pandemic has really caused major disruption to society. You certainly need to be having lived under a rock or been Tom Hanks from the movie Castaway to not really have understood what's going on. Certainly, as life is getting back to normal, there's all sorts of different things that we need to be doing, and that our governments and councils and businesses need to be doing in terms of keeping people protected. And really keeping people safe and ensuring that we don't end up in a wave 2 or some sort of lapse situation that's coming through. So certainly thermal cameras are certainly one way of being able to deliver this. According to the Medical Journal of Australia, we're referring to COVID-19, that in up to 99% of people at some time during the course of their illness have reported fever. Of course, it's not just in COVID-19 where fever is a symptom. There's lots of different diseases and illnesses where fever is a classic symptom. Certainly for a lot of these, we don't see many of these regularly in Australia, but certainly COVID-19, I'm sure many of us have been into different places, whether it be into a school or into a hospital or medical centre, where there's been mandatory temperature checks that have been done there. So there's certainly measuring and understanding temperature is certainly a pretty big reason and a pretty big deterrent, and a pretty big way of being able to determine who is well and who is potentially unwell. So, as I alluded to before, and certainly I've been into a number of places myself where temperature has had to be measured manually. There's certainly lots of issues with that. Certainly a very big waste of time and energy with very big queues that where people have been placed in queues, and certainly there's issues around compliance and so on that go along with that. Of course, in those areas where people are queuing, in areas where they're not used to, and if they're not used to queuing, of course, there's a greater opportunity for exposure to virus as well, where people are having to be delayed in areas where people could possibly be sick as well. There's certainly a chance of cross-infection that's able to be caused as well, with the certain type of measuring instruments either being shared or having to be touched with people who may or may not be infected. I think one of the great areas where this solution that we'll talk to you today from D-Link is that very difficult to be able to go and collect that data, particularly where measurements are having to be done manually. Perhaps there's temperatures which are being written down in a handwritten way. It's very difficult to analyse that data. And of course, it's difficult to be able to make observations and to look at being able to reduce and to prevent further outbreak of issues, in particular, as we're seeing at the minute with the COVID-19 pandemic as well. So, what are some of the what are the products that we have in the D-Link range? Well, there's two products that we have available: the DCS 9510T and the 9210T. Both very, very similar cameras, just different in colour, but also different in the amount of people that they can measure concurrently. Both have got the same response time, both have the same thermal sensor. It's just about the number of people that are able to be measured simultaneously, varying from 16 and from 30 people. Both of these cameras both have in AI-powered facial recognition integrated into these cameras as well. So certainly what we're seeing is that we have a very, very wide temperature range that we're able to measure, certainly much larger than our competition. Very, very sensitive with a 400 by 300 pixel resolution. And that's certainly important when being able to accurately measure temperature, ensuring that you've got the highest resolution thermal sensor. With the D-Link 9210 and 9510 cameras, we're able to get that temperature sensitivity down to 0.3 degrees. That's not 0.3%, but 0.3 degrees. There's certainly lots of different products that are available on the market today that are offering all different types of temperature accuracy. Now, there's one product that I've seen which is offering accuracy to within 3%, which was actually a pretty wide temperature range that you're able to see. So a temperature range of greater than 1 degree, which of course, if somebody is right on the edge, demonstrating that they have a fever, 1 degree certainly can make a very, very significant difference. So that's certainly something for potential customers and potential resellers to look out for as well. Of course, having a very, very fast response time is really important as well, particularly when dealing with a large number of people, with people that aren't lining up, with people that aren't coming through in some sort of uniform manner, with people entering an office environment, as you can see in the picture down on the bottom right, where they're just continuing about their business. The camera is able to pick up many, many people very, very quickly, even when someone happens to be running as well. Of course, having a wide viewing angle, of course, allows us to be able to cover more people of the area that's being trafficked by people as well. So again, the only differences between the two products are the amount of people which are able to be measured simultaneously. And as you'll see from our demonstration a little bit later on, we are able to give you a reading even when a mask or a glasses are being worn. There's certainly some products that are out on the market today where it is required that masks are removed or reading glasses are removed as well, which is of course pretty impractical and is going to result in very low compliance. Temperature is read on the two D-Link cameras is read from the forehead, which is of course an ideal place to go and take temperature from. So lots of applications that we're seeing for our product. We're certainly pleased to announce this week of an installation of one of our cameras that have gone into Mackay Airport up on the wonderful holiday coast, the north coast of Queensland in the Whitsundays, which is allowing them to be able to process up to 5,000 visitors they're expecting a week coming through that airport, which is allowing them to be able to reopen that area of Queensland for tourism as well. Certainly there's lots of interest and lots of opportunity we see in these, in each of these verticals, into shopping malls, mining, construction, to factories and warehouses, of course, schools, childcare, medical centres, and of course aged care facilities are all areas where people are looking at and evaluating these D-Link thermal cameras for today. So what do I get when I buy these products? So what we've done conveniently is to put these cameras into kits where you're getting everything that you need to be able to get this solution up and working. We have the 9500T kit, which comes with the camera, which comes with a black body. Ilya will talk us through a little bit later on and show us how and why a black body is actually used. A couple of wall mount brackets, and there's also the AI-enabled central management software that comes with that as well. In the 9200T kit, we've gone a little bit further where we've also included an NVR included with that. You do need to supply your own disk with that. It does take up to 4 SATA disks, up to 12 terabytes. There's a couple of tripods that come with that as well, which is useful for a temporary installation, and there's also 2 wall mount brackets for the camera and also for the black body as well. So one of the things that's, I guess, a real highlight of this solution is the software that comes with the product as well. Certainly to be able to run this on a client on a laptop or something like that is actually quite easy to do. It's a fairly small installation that needs to be made. Not a huge amount of processing power that's required. Certainly the software has been optimized to run in a i5 device with 8 gig of RAM is certainly the minimum spec that's required. So it's not a enormously powerful device that's needed to run the software. There's also some additional advanced AI, some artificial intelligence analytics that's able to be run this software as well. So things like car number plate recognition and facial recognition as well. And we'll see some of those in the demo a little bit later on. There's different actions in there for known staff and strangers. So you are able to go and upload a database of faces, and Ilya will give us a demonstration of that in the live demo a little bit later on today. With the NVR that comes in the kit with the 9210, this is the spec of the product here. There is 16 PoE ports that are built into the product. Of course, both of these cameras run off 802.3 AF PoE. The NVR gives you video output of up to 4K. It does have a slightly smaller face library that you can load into this with just 10,000 faces as opposed to the million faces if you're running that on a server installation. And I can process up to 20 faces per second on that. So that's a pretty good solution there, a very compact way of being able to go and install this, not having to buy a dedicated PC or server to be able to go and run this software. Okay, I'm going to pass over to Ilya. That's going to take us through a demonstration. I think before we do that, we're just going to have a quick look at the setup that we're running here today as well. Ilya, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Phil. So what we're going to show you today is how the thermal camera works, how the temperature measuring solution works, what are the main components, what are the best practices are for this solution, and if you will have any questions, happy to answer those questions as well. So what we'll try to do now is just to show you what, how the camera looks like when it is installed, and what is the best way to install it. So we'll switch to Phil's trusty phone.
I'm not sure where it's gone.
I can see it.
Here we go.
Here we go. There's
Morning,
Phil.
Julian.
Hello everyone. So this is the camera. Hang on. This is the camera, as you can see, mounted on a tripod. It has two lenses, as you can see. So one lens is for visible spectrum, like your normal surveillance camera would have, and another lens is for the thermal sensor. So that's the one which measures the temperature. So the camera itself has got several connections. It can be PoE powered, but can also be powered through a regular power supply. So in our case, we're just powering it through PoE, Power over Ethernet. And it has multiple connections for alarms. You can set alarm in or alarm out, like a strobe, or you can have a siren, or you can have some other device or to your alarm system. In our case, we've got a strobe connected to the camera. So when there is someone with fever or with an elevated temperature passing by, we will see that light flashing. Right, so another component, it is an optional component, but it is recommended for better accuracy, is the so-called black body. So black body is a temperature reference unit. So you can see it has a temperature set at the back here, and its idea or its aim is to keep that temperature precisely at that number. So when you're setting it up, you need to set the temperature. So out of the box, it is comes preset to 40 degrees, and that's how the camera or the thermal sensor is configured to use 40 degrees as a reference point. So the mounting itself, as you can see, we've got a temper installation here on tripods, but they can obviously be mounted permanently with wall brackets. The distance between the camera and the temperature reference unit, or the black body, is from 3 to 5 meters. So we've got around 4 meters here. And it is also recommended to have, obviously you need to have the black body facing the camera, and it needs to be in the field of view of the camera at all times. It should not be obscured by people. That's why it is better to mount the camera slightly high above the heads or on the side like we have. So when people passing by, they're not obscuring the thermal, the black body. So that's the idea. And I will also show you how to set it up pretty quickly. So we want to show you also the demo of the how the software works. So let me just share my screen. So here we go. So this is how the software looks like. So it's one of the windows. All right, so Phil is telling me that the video is blurred. Let me try again with a different setup. How about now? Is it better? Okay, good. So what we have here is the software which, as you can see, shows two streams from the camera. So you've seen there are two lenses on the camera. One is what you see is a visible spectrum, and another is the thermal sensor feed. So both streams are shown on the screen. If you have multiple cameras, you can obviously arrange them on your screen the way you like. So in our case, we only have one camera, so we'll just have two streams shown here. And if the person is, say, is measured, so you will see, so there's Phil here on the right with his temperature taken. And obviously, if someone is over the temperature, over the set threshold, you will see that person captured here, and it will be registered as over temp a person. So we have David here holding a hot bottle just to get over that threshold. So we'll try to do that live. So David, if we could ask you to pass through. So as you can see, David will go at a normal pace, and as Phil said, the temperature measurement is very quick. So you can actually pick up a person even if the person is running. So no issues here. So there's David here with the right temperature. And if we'll try to do the test with elevated temperature, so here's David with a normal temperature, and if he holds the bottle in front of his forehead for a second, here we go, 52 degrees.
Over temp 52.3 degrees. Over temp 52.3 degrees. Over temp 52.4 degrees. Over temp.
So I'll just stop that. So as you can see, so we set up the system to announce that there is a person there with elevated temperature and announce that temperature. We went a bit overboard with the temperature, but obviously you get the idea. If the person has got higher than required temperature, you will straight away see it. All right. So this is how the software works. We probably also want to show you that one of the advantages of the D-Link solution is that how it measures the temperature of the forehead. So the facial recognition recognizes the face, obviously, and it also determines where the forehead is. And the advantage of that solution is that even if you're wearing a mask, your temperature will still be taken without any problems. Okay, even if you're wearing a mask and the glasses, also not issue whatsoever. So the facial recognition will see where the face is. It will identify where the forehead and the high resolution temperature sensor will pick up the temp of the forehead. Even if you're wearing a hat, as you can see, it will pick up your temperature as well. So it just needs a little bit of sight of your forehead, and it will pick it up right away. So as you can see, very advanced system. So let me show you how the system is set up. As we mentioned, it can be temporary and a permanent setup. Even if the setup is temporary, the setup itself or the configuration of the system takes about 5 minutes or so. And that's what I wanted to show you now. So first of all, when you're setting up the camera, so let me switch to the camera configuration. So there is a section here for temperature measurement. So if you go into parameter configuration of the parameters, we can specify the area where we want the camera to look for the temperature and look for faces. We obviously enable face detection. And we need to also specify what the ambient temperature is. So 25 degrees in our case, and what's the distance to the actual to the black body. So we've got 4 meters here. So if you've got alarm connected to it, so you have an option here to enable what output channel for the alarm and what it will do, and what would be the temperature threshold when it will trigger the alarm, and how long it will be sounding. If you have an email set up, so you can also enable the system to send you an email with a snapshot if there was a temperature threshold, so you will see the person who had higher temperature. And you can specify at what times your system would need to operate, so you can enable, disable it, so after hours or on weekends if you need to. Now, one of the important parts of the setup is thermal calibration. So as we said, the camera can operate even without the black body, but obviously the accuracy of temperature reading would be much worse. So officially it is ±1 degree, and as Phil said, it's not really good enough for fever detection. So you can miss out on quite a lot of people who had elevated temperature. With a thermal in the kit with a black body with a thermal reference unit installed, you can get accuracy of ±0.3 degrees, which is quite good. Right, so all you need to do here is obviously to enable the detection, and you just specify where your black body is, so the camera can see it and read off the reference temperature of there. So you set up your target temperature, you're saying it is 40 degrees is now a case, and what is the distance to that black body for 4 meters in our case. Right, and another thing that needs to be done is so-called thermal mapping. Since we have 2 sensors here, so we've got 2 lenses and 2 sensors, the visible spectrum sensor or visible spectrum lens needs to be mapped to the thermal sensor, right? Because when the visible spectrum system identifies where the face is, it identifies where the forehead of that person is, and it needs to tell the thermal part of the camera to read the temperature of that forehead. So that's one of the parts of the setup which is quite important. So what we see here is different crosses here on the image, and we see the same crosses on the thermal image. And what you need to do here is to specify where they are. So we're looking at point 1. So we're saying we're trying to allocate these crosses around the area where we're measuring the temperature as far away from each other as possible. So for example, we're putting the mapping point here on the corner of this chair here. We need to do the same thing over here, so we know where they're looking at exactly the same spot. So we can put the point number 2, which is the red one, in the corner of the door here, and we identify where this is located on the thermal image as well. And then point 3, which is a blue one, so we say, okay, let's just look at that point and look at that point, and that's it. So we also specify the scene depth, as how far away these dots are from the camera. So it's around 5 meters here. And that's all the setup that needed to be done on the camera itself. Now let's have a look at the software. All right, so you've already seen that. So this is a software which shows you 2 streams from the camera, so the visible spectrum and the thermal spectrum. And we can also see what the settings are for our thermal config. So if you look at our thermal config, what we see here is we're specifying the thresholds. Say the lower temperature threshold, 35. So anything below 35, the camera will ignore or will consider it as abnormal temperature. Or anything above, say, 100 degrees is also being ignored. So we went overboard here. So it could be around 60 degrees or even 50 degrees. It's fine. For how long the alarm will sound. And you also specify the normal body temperature. So anything outside that will be considered as abnormal. So anything, say any temperature, 37.3 degrees will be considered an over temperature, or the person will be with fever. So in the temperature screening, so there are settings in here where you can specify what action to take when a person with elevated temperature is detected. So there is 2 options. There are several options in here. So one is for strangers or people which are not recognized as previously entered into the database, and also for registered. Say, for example, you can have your staff, your members of your company, or you can have some people who you specifically know. So for strangers, we have a speech enabled for over temperature. You heard it announcing the temperature. You can also add your own. So this is text to speech. So you can write anything you want in here and say, please stop. So that person will hear that announcement if the temperature is not right. And for registered people, you can have also different actions. So you can announce their name and again, read their temperature and also tell them to wait for assistance, something like that. So this is the setup for the temperature reading. Now, when the system reads the faces, it also tries to identify who these people are, and will try to find them in the database. So, for example, if we have someone already entered in the database, it will identify and will write their names on the screen as well. You can search for a person in the database. You can add the person into the database. For example, there's a picture of David here. I'll try to find a good looking one. Oh, David always looks good. So there you go, there's David in here. You can enter David into the database. You can specify who he is, so staff, etc. You can create your own, types of people, your own categories, and put your own remarks, etc. You can add multiple pictures if necessary. And I also wanted to show you, say, if you want to search for that person, you want to see, say, from the beginning of the month, if David ever appeared in front of this camera at all. And if we do a search, it scans David's face, and we will see all the snapshots of him ever appeared on the camera, as you can see, not only today, from the previous days as well. At different angles, as you can see, the facial recognition does a really good job here. Even at different angles, it will recognize the person. And again, you see the temperature information here as well. The database is editable, as I said. You can add people, and you can have all your staff entered into the system, and you can also add people who, for example, you don't want to see at your premises. We had these questions as well. So some people are, say, forbidden to enter the premises. You can set up alarms for that as well. The software which we supply for free with this solution, it actually offers quite a lot of features, not just temperature measurement. So as you can see, there's a lot of options in here. One thing I wanted to show you is the health archives. It is quite a useful feature if, for example, you want to see a history of a specific person. So this is me. You can see there's some temperature readings throughout different days. So if you have a look what happened to me on the 9th, we'll see that at 10 o'clock, I walked in front of the camera with this temperature, and at 12 with this temperature, and then after 1 o'clock, something happened and I got elevated temperature here. So you have access to all these data, and you can actually export it as well. Other features in this software include, you know, all the settings for alarm. You can send alarm emails. You can set up your servers. So this is like your main menus, or like a shortcut to all the features of the software, and you can add them to your favorites through that full list of features. So there's report statistics, reports on temperature, reports on people, etc., etc. So the software itself is very comprehensive. It is designed to work with AI-enabled camera, like our thermal cameras are. And it does a really good job, as you've seen, with facial recognition and with temperature. And it is quite flexible in terms of how you can configure it to react to different types of people and what actions to take. So this is a brief introduction to our solution. I will pass it back to Phil. There you go, all yours, Phil.
Great, thank you, Ilya. Okay, thanks for that excellent demonstration. There's certainly a lot that's in there with the camera, but also certainly a lot that's in there with the software as well. Okay, so I'm just having a few little technical challenges at the minute in being able to go back and share my screen. Ilya, I don't know if you're perhaps able to make me presenter. I don't know if that's going to be able to work. Okay. Great. Okay. No, I just can't get my share screen working for whatever reason. That's the first Zoom faux pas that we've had so far, which is pretty good. But anyway, that's okay. We shall push on. So. Not really that much more to go with our presentation today. What I did want to show everybody, and I guess is, you know, what happens next? Where do we go? Where do you go from here with regards to the engaging with D-Link around thermal cameras? So we've got a good amount of marketing that's available. We've had a number of partners all around Australia and New Zealand that we've worked with to co-brand some of the marketing collateral. So please make contact with your D-Link account manager or with a D-Link distributor to get in contact with us to have a look at that marketing material, to get that with your details on there, and for you to go and market that out to your existing or potential customers in some of those verticals that we've looked at. We've got a battle card that's available as well. I guess calling out the key features that we have over our competitors. Certainly with the software being included in those bundles, there's no additional licensing charge that comes with that software. Of course, that software is all there with the that is included on the NVR as well, with software available for clients to be able to see that locally as well. Wide viewing angle is certainly something that's important, being able to get more and more people into that. You can get more people in that area that's being trafficked by people, more people in the view, and being able to take measurements without having to remove hats, remove glasses, and importantly, to be able to remove face masks as well. So there's lots of great literature that we've got that's available that's going to help you, our partners, to be able to go talk to this to your customers about as well. Certainly, if there's anybody that's on here on this webinar today that is an IT reseller or a security reseller, and you're not yet a D-Link partner, we'd certainly encourage you to sign up to our partner rewards program. You can go and join up at dlink.com.au/rewards or dlink.co.nz/rewards. Do go and sign up, and your local D-Link account manager will be in touch with you. We've got great representation in terms of distributors, both in Australia and in New Zealand. In both Australia and New Zealand, you can purchase these products through Ingram Micro and Synex. And in just Australia only, the product is available through Blue Chip Infotech, EdSys Hills, Multimedia Technology, and Pacific Datacom. In terms of key contacts, we've got great coverage across Australia and New Zealand. You saw David Urbano before in here. David is one of our 2 pre-sales engineers covering the region. David looks after Queensland, NT, New South Wales, ACT, and is doing some work in NZ as well. Aaron Bilton, many of you will know Aaron. Aaron's based in Melbourne, covering Victoria, Tasmania, South Australia, and WA. He's not getting out of Victoria anytime soon, but of course he is available remotely, which many of our partners and your customers are taking advantage of being able to contact both Aaron and David. We've got channel managers on the ground in Brisbane, Bernie Reisenberger, that covers Queensland and the Northern Territory, Michael Crocombe, who's based in Sydney, who covers New South Wales and the ACT, and Colin Chamberlain, who is based in Melbourne also, who covers Victoria, Tasmania, South Australia, and WA. Earlier this year, we also appointed Paul Batchelor to a channel manager role in New Zealand, based in Wellington. So if you're in New Zealand, you haven't been in contact with Paul, please do so. If you want anybody's contact details, normally I would have a slide up that would have all of this information. I apologise that we can't get that up there. We can't get that up there at the minute for some reason. Just shoot an email through to sales@dlink.com.au or sales@dlink.co.nz, and just state where you're from and that you attended the thermal camera webinar, and we will get in touch with you. Ilya, good job. That's teamwork at its best. So we'll leave that slide up there for anybody that wants to jot down those details. Okay, so that is the conclusion of today's webinar. We did have some Q&A at the end of that. I am having some struggles being able to read the questions, so I am still logged in on my mobile phone from doing that demonstration before. I've got a question here from Glenn. This one would be for Ilya. Is the software web-based? or is it OS based? And if it's OS based, is it Windows only?
It is OS based, so the server software is Windows only, but there is Mac client as well, so it can be used on a Mac, but as a remote client only. But the server software, what you're looking at now, is for Windows.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Ilya. Okay, question here that's just come through from Ali. How about people carrying hot stuff while they are entering?
It is not an issue because the facial recognition would look for your face and will only measure the temperature of the forehead. So whatever you're carrying in your hands, it wouldn't matter. So unless they put their cup of tea on their forehead, then it will obviously pick it up. But yeah, if you're not covering your forehead, or at least not completely, so it will read it correctly.
So certainly, I know that's my favourite position to carry my cup of tea when I'm walking from the kitchen back to my desk. I love having it up there, so it's not going to work in that scenario. Of course, I'm only being a little bit silly. I think it's as long as there's nothing covering the forehead, the hot stuff is not going to get picked up. I guess that's the advantage of having the AI engine in both the camera and also the NVR, that it's able to very quickly determine what's somebody's forehead and what's not a forehead, looking for different things on people's faces as well. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay, now there is a question here from Bruce. How many of these cameras have been installed in Australia, roughly? Okay, so Bruce, on that one, we've got in that. So it is a very new solution. We have only just got our first shipment of stock into the country. So we've got our first one that's just been deployed out at Mackay Regional Airport. We've got several others pending at the minute. I can say there is a couple that we are under NDA with that we can't comment on either at the moment as well. But we're certainly very pleased with the progress that we're making so far. What's certainly going to make a bit of a difference is the bringing in the 9200T in addition to the 9500T. I'm not going to talk about any partner pricing that's on these at the minute. So the 9500T with the 30 concurrent people does have a recommended retail price of $34,999 including tax. The 9200T with 16 concurrent people, and this is in the bundle with the NVR and the black body as well, has a RRP of $18,599. So there's certainly a much better price point on that one. Stock of those has just arrived into the country yesterday. So we're certainly very keen to get those out there. If you are a D-Link Rewards partner today, please get in touch with your account manager to talk about your partner rewards price on that. We certainly believe that we've got a pretty compelling and a pretty compelling offering out in the market, certainly compared to what's being marketed out there at the minute as well. Okay, all right. So Adrian, hopefully that answers part of your question that's just come in just now. I use a thermal imaging camera that costs significantly less than the D-Link solution at 35K. We have just introduced a lower cost product with an RRP of just a tick over $18,000. So Adrian, we might get in touch with you regarding that. But yes, we certainly saw that as a bit of an issue, and it is something that we have addressed. So we're looking forward to to getting out to the market with that new range of product as well. Okay, looks for the minute that there's no other questions that are coming in right now. If that is all, I'd like to thank Ilya for his time this morning. Ilya, thank you very much for your excellent demonstration as always. It's great to have our model in David Urbano here with us as well. It's a very good day from me, and we look forward to catching you on the next webinar.
Thank you, everyone.